Can be hard when you grow up. People fill you with doubt. You start thinking about what you're gonna do now. And it's do or die, gotta make it count. So lose your worries, let your problems go on until my whole body burns out. I ain't never gonna slow down. I ain't never gonna slow down.
Welcome everyone, this is Coaching in Session. My name is Michael Rearden and I will be your mindset coach today. And today we're going to be talking about leadership and how to be a high performer. Now we have had many leadership coaches come on the podcast, talk about performance, talk about leadership, how to elevate yourself. But today is going to be a little bit different because we kind of get into the nitty-gritty of what leadership is, the essence of leadership. Because a lot of people think that a leader is the person who's ahead, right? I'm following someone, they're the leader, right? Think if you're a kid, follow the leader. I'm going to follow this one person because they're the leader. Versus, what would happen if we said, okay, instead of giving one person leadership, we're going to give a group of people leadership. And we're going to have that group lead the pack. So now there's going to be 5 people that work together to lead the group. Very similar to how you have a flock of sheep. And you have the shepherd dogs, you have the shepherd, maybe multiple shepherds. If you think of cattle, you have multiple ranchers on different horses. Guess what? This is going to be the aspect of how we get everyone on board to the mission, to the goal, to the life that we're trying to get. Because if you have a formula that you create for yourself, for others to be successful, to be happy, to be prosperous, wouldn't you want to get as many people on board? But yet, there's a saying, you can bring a horse to the water, to the river, to wherever, but you can't make him drink. And in a sense, even though I have all of this information on the website, on the podcast, I can't make you take action. I can't make you consume this information and apply it. But what I can do is give you the aspect of if you did this, what would be the outcome? What would happen as a result of you taking the action, of you taking this information and applying it to your life today? The simple answer is going to be prosperity. The long-winded answer is going to be a life that you can be proud of having, a life that you can be proud that you have lived. This is going to be the aspect of what true leadership is. Many people think leadership is a position of power, but yet that position of power leads a ripple effect that makes your life powerful. And today we're going to be giving you all the tips and the tricks and the secrets and all the conversations and knowledge and wisdom to give you those nuggets, to give you the path, to give you the beacons, to help you find your way to what true leadership is with my guest today, Gregory Skeete. Welcome, Gregory Skeete, to Coaching in Session. How are you doing today?
Hey, Michael, doing very well, thank you. How about you?
Doing well. Thanks so much for coming on. Today, we're going to be talking about your work. You are a high performance and leadership coach. And in the world of being a follower, it's always refreshing to get some leaders in life because many people fail to take the leadership role. They fail to say, I'm going to step into the power of being the leader that I know I can be, because it is easier to be a follower than it is a leader. And you help people become the leaders that they can be, that they should be, and that maybe they don't even know how to be. In your own words, tell the world who you are, what you do, and how you help them.
All right, thank you, Michael. That's right, high performance leadership coach, and I would say self-proclaimed life engineer. And people may ask, well, what is a life engineer? So I come from a background in mechanical engineering, worked in manufacturing, corporate, Coca-Cola. I was lucky to be part of a program that was designed to develop someone who could become a general manager within 3 to 5 years. Coming from engineering, you think it's all about operations management, food technology, these kinds of things. But then you realize that the key to growth in your role, whether it's a corporate employee or an entrepreneur, is really leadership. Because none of us, not one, can achieve massive goals on our own. It always requires other people. And to your point at the beginning there about many people choosing to be followers because it's easy, and that's quite true. And they say the road to success is uphill all the way. So if you're listening now and you feel like it's a bit of a struggle, you're probably on the right path. because you're taking on something that is more challenging. But I also want you to know, if you're listening right now, just on that point, that everyone, every single person is a leader, because leadership is influence. According to my mentor, John Maxwell, and I am a John Maxwell certified coach, leadership is influence, nothing more, nothing less. And that is one of the 21 laws of leadership. If you think about it, it could be influence over children or influence over your parents, a close friend, but all of us have some influence on someone. And it's really just a question of degree. So you may be a weaker leader right now or a stronger one, but you are already a leader. If anyone asks following this podcast, confidently say that I am a leader, because you are. In my role of life engineer, I take the true essence of engineering, which I found out to be creative problem solving, from the Latin word for ingenuity, and apply it to the most important thing that we all have, which is our lives. It didn't come with the operating manual. You didn't get one at birth that says, hey, here's how to be my best self. You don't have a blueprint necessarily. Who was the ultimate version of you? Today, you may be 20 or 30 or 40 years old. What is the version that is 60, 70? And how can we reverse engineer the things that are most important to you? That you make the very most of the most precious gift. There's only one shot. No replays, no rewinds. Now is your time to make it count. And help people do just that in their lives, their careers, and their businesses.
You said something about leadership is influence. Can we have some examples of what leadership with low influence is versus a leadership with high influence is?
Most definitely, and great question. And I'm sure everyone here has had some job at some point with a boss or manager they just couldn't stand, because as a person that is trying to get you to do tasks, they're saying, go do this, do that, but perhaps they're not actually being an example of the thing they're asking for. We've all had situations where eventually, and whatever we're doing, the work is easy. And the things that frustrate us tend to be people. Whether it's a person asking you to do things that they're not willing to do, or a person who wants to pigeonhole you as a leader, telling you to wait, hold on, you're not ready for this. I remember back in engineering when I realized that I wanted to be a business leader beyond my process engineer role. And I went to the manager at the time and told her, well, like, I think if I understood finance and business, I could be better in my engineering job. Like, what are the costs, what are the expenses? How do we become more lean? And she said, oh, the financial manager is reserved for senior managers. We don't see how that's a good fit for you. And here I was as an employee at that time, willing to learn, wanting to make the company better, more profitable, more lean. But this leader, and many leaders get nervous when they see high performance people coming through. They fear for their own jobs. So they try to pigeonhole or limit you to what you could be to make sure they feel comfortable. So that's an example of poor leadership, but also a reminder that leaders have to be learners, and the learners become the earners. And the only way to not ever feel a lack of confidence or insecurity, if you are in a leadership position today, is to ensure that you continuously grow and evolve. Because if you do that, you never have to worry about being overtaken or becoming irrelevant in your particular role. So we also see leaders who, Michael, don't understand that leadership and influence is built on trust. Leadership influence is built on trust. When you lose trust, forget about leading. Doesn't matter. That could be your personal relationship, husband and wife, boyfriend, girlfriend. They say often trust is like a nice vase. It's pretty, and if it drops and breaks, you could put it back together. But one, is going to take a while, and two, it's never going to be quite as strong. And the most important thing that we look for in leaders are the ones that we can trust. Even if they're not nice or inspirational, we know that what we see is what we get. And I can believe and trust, like, if I follow this person, I know what to expect. But we've seen those leaders who pretend. Some may even say, especially politicians, where what you see on TV, you meet them in person, is not the same. And it's hard to trust and follow that. We want leaders who are of high integrity, that they're consistent in their values, their principles, their beliefs, that when a person shows up, they know, like, you see, Michael, I can count on him. I can trust him. And he cares about me and not just what I bring or what I do. Yeah, I hope that answers your question.
No, that's a great way. It's going to lead to a great conversation, I believe, because now we're going to get into the aspect of there's many different ways we can say it. I'm just going to say sometimes, like, master in student, like in karate or like martial arts, right? There's a master, a sensei, and then you have the students, the apprentices, right? The goal for the master is typically to make that student no longer a student, but to make them a master themselves. In a sense, leadership is to help individuals become leaders in a sense that now we're going to be equal, or I'm going to make you better than I was. This is something that many people, as you said, like a bad leader would say, I don't want you to go ahead of me. I don't want you to beat me because it's going to make me feel inferior. However, we can get that mindset of I'm helping people and I'm building people to be better than I am. That's a strong leadership quality, and it is a quality that is lacking today. But I do want to ask now, this is going to be like the trick question, because if a leader builds up another person to be the leader, is that person now the new leader because they're head and that other person is a student or a follower? Are they both leaders in their own right?
Yeah, great question. And the direct answer is that they're both leaders in their own right. And what you said there is exactly what we want. We want a case where, at the highest form of leadership, one, you're producing other leaders. So it's very popular, especially in our age of social media, TikTok, Instagram, these things, to focus on followers. So I want followers, followers, followers. I have 10,000 followers, right? But it's really a whole lot more efficient and effective if you could build a group of leaders. 100 leaders is exponentially more powerful than 10,000 followers. And people don't have the leadership capacity, right? And two, at the highest form of leadership, and this is really interesting, the real leader is often not even known to future followers. So if you develop leaders who can surpass you, it doesn't mean that you lose influence over them. But if I build 10 superhuman leaders, those 10 could go build 10 more. And 10 by 10 by 10 by 10, you still achieve 100,000. But now you're focused on your 10. But guess what? Those 10 may not only bring 10, they may bring 100, 1,000. And what you find is that those people who you built and pushed to another level of success, typically, if you do it right, they still have extreme loyalty to you because you were their master, their sensei, and the respect remains there. But we do want them to be better than we were because that is the goal of continuous improvement. Whether it's leadership of your children or leadership of the workplace, everything gets easier when you have people who are in many ways smarter than you are, but you know how to coordinate and influence and lead them. Great question.
Leadership is one of those things that it's not equal. There's a test called the Clifton Strength Finder test. I'm not sure if you're familiar with it. If you are, audience members, I'm more referring to you now. Take it, right? You get to learn your strengths, you get to learn what you're good at. And everyone has strengths and weaknesses, or if you even look at different books and things like that, they're called zones of genius, right? Where you should be putting your time and your effort.
Yeah.
There's an aspect to leadership where everyone might want to be a leader, but not everyone does the work to be a leader. Everyone wants to fight, but no one really wants to get hit, right? They don't want to struggle because they look at the glory, right? Oh, it'd be so nice to be a CEO. So we have all these people starting businesses. We have all these people trying to make their name out there or get their name out there, make a name for themselves, but they're not willing to go through the trenches. They're not willing to go through the years of hardship, the years of no one loving you and no one knowing about you for the moment when the world knows you and when everyone wants to be you. Everyone sees who you became, but not what you had to do to become that person. What is that journey to leadership?
Yeah, man, another great question. And I think you hit the nail on the head that many people try to avoid it. And like I said earlier, the road to success is uphill all the way. And I can't remember which fighter who said it, but you don't want to wait until you're in the ring and the bright lights are on to show that you haven't been training, right? The work is put in outside the ring. The glory is attained there, but the real work, I think someone else said it takes 7 years to become an overnight success because you have to be ready for when opportunity meets preparation. That's what luck really is. And so leaders have to be consciously aware of their own growth. And then this ties into the life engineer concept because one of the other essential traits of leadership in your life, in your business, is having a clear vision. And for me, this is almost one of the most important cubes in the life engineer structure because where are you leading people to? Everyone is talking about leadership, leadership. I want to be a leader, but where are we going? and why? Those are fundamental questions that few people pause to ask. And even for me, in my own journey, today may be a public speaker, professional coach, had a chance to meet people like Sir Richard Branson, John Maxwell, and the version that you see here on my website, that was not me 10, 12 years ago. Like many engineers, I was the introverted, rather work behind the scenes kind of person. Hard worker, but don't put me in the spotlight. Don't need it. Actually, when I was a bit younger, 8 years old, I had a recitation to recite in church. It was 2 lines long. Like I got up there, me and three other little boys, and for some reason, I said the first line and I could not remember the second. And I'm seeing my Sunday school teacher run around the back of the church, trying to whisper it to me side stage. And I'm completely freaked out. All the old folks in the front lowering their glasses saying, "Hey, is that young Skeete forget his words?" And from that moment on, I was petrified of public speaking. You could not pay me to do it. And for some of you listening, you may have had a moment like that somewhere in your past, or your natural personality just isn't naturally aligned to being public. But you see, when you discover your vision, your reason for being in this life, sometimes that's the only catalyst that can pull you into the version of yourself that is there, latently laying inside, waiting for the right catalyst to wake you up. And for me, what pulled me out of that zone was when I realized that if I will fulfill what I think is my mission of helping people engineer the best version of themselves, that they can also become leaders and build other leaders. And perhaps over the course of 50 years, create a movement of people who operate from real truth and real purpose, and less of the superficial nature that we have today. The microwave results as opposed to the slow cook crock pot, right? That pulled me out of that zone. So you made a very good point about the Clifton strengths, because how can you grow yourself if you don't know yourself? And one of the first essential tasks for any leader is to understand, who am I? Because that helps you to even decide and see what was the vision that you were destined to create. Because as you rightly said as well, we become world class in our area of strengths. We don't want you to put in all the effort to become an extraordinarily average person. The things that you're good at, you move from a 7 to a 9 for the same effort as it would take to move from a 1 to a 3. And tests like that can help. The other one that's a really big one that I really want our audience to take away, Mike, is the DISC assessment. Have you ever heard of that one?
Yes.
Yes? Okay. Well, for those listening, just in a quick summary, human behavior and personality tends to fall into one or two of 4 general areas. In ancient China, you might have heard of air, earth, water, and fire. You may have heard of Myers-Briggs. DISC is another model, but it's my favorite because of its simplicity. But when it comes to leadership, who you are in that profile affects your leadership style and affects how you work with other people, whether it's your partner at home, your employees, or co-workers. When you understand that about you and you understand it about other people, we now have the basis of real emotional intelligence from which you can lead from a place of strength. Because it means that you know your leadership strengths, you know your natural personality. And that's one of the key things for the folks that we help. We want you to align with your personality, not thinking you have to be someone else to become a great leader, but find out who is the truth of who you are, what are your strengths, and how do we leverage those to get the best version of you for whatever your mission and vision in life turns out to be.
And there's different areas where, as you said, like they have the different elements like earth, wind, water, fire. You might be a different element, and there's always a person that's going to complement who you are. It's going to be the opposite of what you are. Using public speaking as an example, right? You might not like public speaking, even if you do the work to enhance your public speaking skills. You will do public speaking. It's not one of the things that you say that I won't do. It's just the things that you know that there are going to be people that you can support, that you can bring on your team that just do it better. Plus, they love it. You have a choice, right? You can say, I'm good at meeting people in the front, not going on stage, handling the finances and things along those lines. It's all the aspect of like a partnership, right? And in that partnership, trust is built. You handle your piece, I handle my piece. Together, we have a working composition. Yet many people, they try to be a jack of all trades. I'm going to do everything myself. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. I'm going to bottleneck this. And what happens is it slows us down. Leadership becomes slower instead of us being more prosperous and me being more volatile. Like, all right, boom, I blew up. Versus, okay, we're slow and steady. We're trickling down the road. We might get success, but when is it going to happen? When we're 65, 67, like Colonel Sanders? Who knows, right? Most people want success now, but they do it in the way of, I need to build up all of my like inefficiencies, deficiencies, whatever you want to call them, instead of finding people, bring them in my circle. We're not lone warriors as leaders. And I think people, when they think of leadership, they think of a sole person that we follow versus a group of individuals that come together, that collaborate, and that unite. Can we talk about the mindset of an individual leader who thinks they can do it themselves versus a group of people who are all leaders in their own right that come together for a united cause?
Yeah, another great point in question. And anyone who's right now feeling like that, the individual leader who is moving very slowly because you're totally on your own, you have to realize, as they say in Barbados in the Caribbean, it always takes two hands to clap. Anytime you've heard a symphony orchestra, any spectacular band, even your favorite artists, perhaps a Beyonce or Jay-Z or someone else, it's never them by themselves. There's stage crew, there's lighting, there's the actual musicians, mixers, DJs, hosts, event management, the list goes on, right? They say one is too small a number to build anything great. And if your mindset right now today, as your coaching is in session right now, if one is your number today, I promise you, it's never going to be great. Perhaps good, lots of effort over time, but not great. And I believe anyone who chose to listen to this podcast is after greatness. And if that is the case, you have to know that you need people alongside you. So, for example, probably about 10 years back, I released my first children's book. And for a while, I was thinking about how can I get this thing done? How can I get this done? I got this story in my mind, it came up, but I'm not a great artist, drawing some max stick figures and some big head characters. And I knew what I could see in my mind, but my hands just could not translate that to a piece of paper. And I was thinking, man, is this going to be stuck in my head forever? And then I think I was listening to someone and they were talking about this very same point. Do what you do best, outsource the rest. And I said, okay, perhaps I could find an illustrator. And we are blessed in the age of the internet and technology, and we can find people in every corner of the planet. And I reached out, found an illustrator who did spectacular work and turned my little matchstick figures into something truly beautiful. I had the words, but now I have the pictures too. And then, okay, we got a book done, but is it really publishing ready? Found an editor, got it done, pulled it all together, and the book went on to win the first national award in Barbados in the electronic format back in 2013. And that could never happen. That book would still be in a folder somewhere in my drawer if I didn't make that shift. I encourage anyone listening today, like leadership doesn't mean that you have to have even a team of employees, but it's other people. I didn't hire any of those people as employees, but I found people to partner with. That is leadership too, all right? Doesn't have to be employees. We think of leadership as position, but I want you to be leaders without titles. You don't need a position to be the leader.
There's sometimes you hear stories of like a CEO doing some hiring, right, for a big company. And when he is getting ready for the hiring, he'll go down, he'll dress as a janitor, or, they'll be the receptionist or whatever. And they greet the people coming in, right? And they get a feel for who they're going to be hiring for the positions. Sometimes these people, they'll come in very snotty, like, oh, I'm going to meet with the CEO today, and you're insignificant compared to who I'm going to meet. And the CEO can see this, right? And like in the story, typically there's always that one person who's cocky or just not a good fit, just like a bad person, negative all around. And the moment they see who is the hiring manager, the CEO, or whatever, they're like, who's this person? And then like they're like, that's the CEO. And you could just see like their face turn pale,
Shock.
their heart drop to shock. It is crazy how the only thing you had to do was understand that you might be a great fit, a great asset. You might be a leader in your own right, but it doesn't come to the fact or the sense that you should start to belittle people. Because as you said early on, trust is one of the things that leadership needs to flourish. If your people that you partner with, the people that do the work for you, employees, it doesn't necessarily matter the title or what their role is. If they don't trust you, why would they want to work with you? Why would they want to invest in you? Why would they want to give you any of their time? Now,
Yeah.
of course, they can want the money aspect of it, but then those are people that you don't necessarily want. You want people who are going to help your vision. And one of the things you said, like with your illustrations, and you have your characters with big heads and your matchstick bodies, you've found an illustrator. You could say, hey, this is what I'm looking for. I can't do it. I don't have the skill to do it. but you do. Can you help me with my dreams? And this is where I think people fail to understand that someone else's dreams can become your dream. There are two types of people I find when it comes to employees and leadership, CEO stuff, relationships, right? You have your CEOs that want to be in that position, that company, right? They want to build. Then you have the employees that want a paycheck, or you have employees that see the vision of the CEO and they want to help them achieve that dream. They want to help them build that dream. And I find that the people that want to help those CEOs build that dream and that vision, they also get pulled into leadership positions more readily than for employees that just want a paycheck. What is your experience on that?
That is 100% spot on. And you dropped so much gold there just now. You've been taking notes so I could speak to all of it. But I too love those scenarios where the CEOs dressed up and see how their potential hires treat people at the lowest level. And that's really, really important because if you are running a company, the two core things that exist are people and processes. Any business is just a collection of processes across departments. Could be finance, sales, marketing, talent, engineering, production, but all processes happening. But who runs the processes? People. We're not yet to a place of full autonomous operation. There's always going to be people there. And it means that any leader has to have both the people side and the process side. You can manage process, but don't for a second believe that you can manage people. People require leadership, human connection, the things that move them, emotion, spirit. Those are things that cannot simply be robotically drilled out, so to speak. And so when you see those CEOs observing potential hires that discriminate or disregard the lower level employees, get rid of them right away. Because when you put that person in a leadership role, that behavior now spreads exponentially. Because you're in a leadership role, there could be 10, or in many cases, 10,000 people downline in the reporting structure. And if that person isn't a good fit, it's like a cancer that can spread all the way through the organization. One of the jobs of a leader is to protect culture. Whether it's your household or your company, you have to protect culture. And when you find people who disrespect that, even if they can do the technical work, you got to root them out and send them on their way. Because the law of victory and the 21 laws of leadership says leaders have to find a way for the team to win. And if that means moving people, so be it, right? So that's really, really important. And just remind me again about the last bit of the question, if you still got it in your mind, because I wanted to speak to that too.
Well, we were just talking about like the aspect of leadership in a whole. So we talked about the CEO, and then we came toward the end of if we're trying to build up our employees that have a dream for the CEO, right? So it's so
Right,
basically the
yes. And
dream
the people who are
of the
moving
CEO and trying to bring that to life.
to life. So let me share my personal experience on that one there as well. Like I said, at the start of my career, pretty much straight out of university, I was blessed, fortunate to be part of a program that was designed to develop a general manager within a group of manufacturing companies within 3 to 5 years, right? So it meant that I had a lot of one-on-one mentorship time with senior executives, 20, 30, 35, 40 years in the business. And one of the executives in one of our mentorship sessions, he pulls me aside and says, Greg, I see you putting on a lot of effort in your leadership and you're trying to help everyone, which is good. But he says, for those who may be familiar with the 80-20 principle, there's always a small few that drive the majority of the results. So in manufacturing, maybe 20% of the breakdowns at a machine account for 80% of the downtime. And your closet at home may wear 20% of your clothing 80% of the time. And when it comes to leadership and a team, oftentimes 20% of the employees carry 80% of the workload. The others are required, they have to sit in their places, but they're not the drivers. And you told me you have to know who's in your 20% and distribute your energy and time accordingly. It may not seem fair. You may have a team of 15 people, but if you try to give all 15 the same energy, you're going to suffer. You need to find the three who are the leaders who share this vision, who you can build up, and help each of them to influence five. And that mindset is going to carry you a whole lot further. Seeing 80-20, as you said, there's a set of people, the ones that care, that you got to give the most energy to. And I found that to be very interesting in a dynamic shift in the way I was thinking, because we all have a limited amount of time. Leadership requires time. And if you try to give it everywhere, odds are you're going to be fully spent. pouring from your cup and not enough of you to really get around.
No, that is so important that people realize that. And not enough people realize it quick enough, right? Everyone, especially for the young minds, they're just like, okay, let me do as much things as I can today. And a lot of people mistake movement for progress.
Oh, yeah.
If I do enough, if I say enough, if I speak fast enough, eventually I'll do the right thing. I'll say the right thing. I'll get the right results. Yet their focus should be on how can I do the best job right now, the 100% the best that I can versus like quantity. How many things can I get done? A lot of people just like, okay, I did this, blah, 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 blah. Right? We have a to-do list instead of a priority list. And a lot of people, they don't prioritize the things that they should be prioritizing, whether it be themselves or people. They just say, okay, well, let me just do as much as I can do. And then from there, okay, let's see what's left. And a lot of people, they find that they are drained by not even doing the things that are most important to them. How can people start to focus on doing the priority things instead of the things that are inconsequential, the things that we can delegate, the things that we can give to someone else, the things that, or the people that are not necessarily bringing that 20%, they're the 80% of people. How can we start to focus on the priority?
And that's another great question. I think it builds on a lot of what we said before in terms of understanding yourself and what you're about, along with that key component of vision. Because people use the word priority quite loosely in our age. People say, oh, we got 5 priorities. No, no, priority by nature means that you are choosing one, right? In the life engineer process, it really moves from vision at the highest level to goals. And by goals, I mean outcomes, to plans, to action, to review, and then improve and go again, right? What happens when I think, as you mentioned earlier, people have a bunch of tasks, but it's not aligned with a vision. And without a vision, how can you know what's priority? How can you? You absolutely have to know, where am I today? Where do I want to be? And those 2 points of information tell you what has happened in between, where your priorities should come from. And so, you said everybody keeps a to-do list. I want to encourage you to keep 2 other lists beyond that. One, outcomes. So having goals that are clear outcomes. I don't care how many tasks it takes on your to-do list. What is the outcome here that we're looking for? And keeping it smart goals. Specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, time-bound. And when you do that, that now begins to show you what are the tasks that you should come up with as one thing. And it also shows you, how should I structure these tasks into actual plans? What are all the things that have to happen for this outcome to be made real? Whether it's your own personal project or company level, in many instances, people don't have plans, written plans, to convert outcomes and know what they need to act on. So the outcome list I want everyone to have, plus a to-be list, because we get so caught up in the to-dos, we forget that we're human beings, not human doings, right? We are human beings. And it means that who you intentionally decide to be is in many ways even more important than what you choose to do, because how you decide to be influences the quality of what you do. So when you wake up in the morning, I don't want you to just get going on a to-do list, to-do list, to-do list. Who am I going to be today when I step into the world? Am I confident? Am I clear? Am I communicating well? Am I prioritizing? All of these elements that go more deeply into mindset affect what you even decide to do, right? But we live in an age where people are so busy that we're not able to pause, take a step back, and see what's truly priority. So I want you to have an outcome list and a to-be list. Because going back to your previous point about the people that drive things forward, and this applies whether you're in a job right now, folks, or leading a business. One of the best pieces of advice I got from that mentor back in my corporate days was, he said to me, Greg, if you find a way to work yourself out of this job, there will always be a role for you higher up in the company. And for me, that was critical, because there were points, you're young, you're trying to make an impression, and you kind of want to be a star and shine in this role, right? But he said, no, you're good. Clearly, you're good. But I want you to find a way, find me somebody else who can be as good, and I will always find another place to put you. And that's the key to moving up in a corporate entity or in your own business. finding ways to work yourself out of the job.
There's an interesting foundation, especially here in America, right? We have our educational system is outdated, but we do have to look at what you just said is great advice for any age of person. You can be a teenager, take this, you're going to grow. You can be a young entrepreneur in your 20s, take this, you can grow. You can be a late bloomer in your 30s or 40s, starting a business. Guess what? Take this, you can grow. Why is this information that you and me are talking about today and sharing with the world not being taught about in the schools where it should be, so they start at a young age and they build themselves up? So now they can be leaders, they can be ready, they can do after what they need to do versus what they just are doing. Because a lot of people are kind of just going with the flow of life, but they're not necessarily making moves in the right direction.
Boy, that's a podcast episode in
That's a
itself.
whole one, yeah.
But another great question, and I'll give just my opinion on it, right? I think America and Barbados, we have a common point of shared history, and there's many levels to it. But I know for sure in our country, coming from a colonial system, Barbados was built on sugarcane and the plantations, and this was obviously in the prime of the industrial age, which the US shared as well. And I think that in many ways, the education system was designed as literally a production line, a manufacturing line, to ensure that once we moved to the industrial age, we needed people of certain levels of essential skill to complete the work. Most educational systems weren't necessarily built to help you truly become the best version of yourself or build something that you can own. It was designed in many ways for you to fit in to what already existed and provide the manpower that was needed for those who already had business and knew and could see what they needed. And that's just the general level as it relates to business and capitalism in general. And for some of us, I think it goes a layer deeper when we add the racial component as well. Because in Barbados, we were really the hub that developed many of these slave systems that were then exported to the US. I think in many ways, and Bob Marley sang about this, his birthday is coming up next week, emancipate yourselves from mental slavery. That applies to you regardless of your race, color, age, right? Mental slavery, I think that resonates and relates to shackles that have been placed on our mind against our will. And some of these shackles were placed entirely innocently by people who cared about us and wanted us to be safe. So in the context, I think of slavery and some of the experience in Barbados, when you had a slave system that if you stepped out of line, you could have a situation where a family had to stand by and watch a father or an uncle or a mother being pulled apart in two different directions. That leaves an impression that you have to play safe, take the orders, don't try to stand out, don't try to do too much, and you'll be all right. And it was good advice to stay alive, absolutely good advice. But what happens is that sometimes our messages through our families and generations pass on generation after generation, and we don't ask why or where that came from. You know, in Barbados, you could be carrying a message that came from the year 1700, passed on by generation to generation to stay safe, even when fortunately now we've gotten off the plantation. And so that's veering off topic a little bit, but I think one of the essential traits in leadership and in our leadership development system is belief. And belief includes identity, who you see yourself to be. And what's your true identity, and not, as some people say, your identity, the one that somebody else told you you were or had to be. And it means digging into our history to see where we came from. I see it just like in engineering, when you're troubleshooting a problem or a challenge, this is what's happening in the present. But the first thing you do is go back and see what led up to this moment. Was the trends? Was the data? Any anomalies? And I think in the context of our own lives, sometimes we have to go back through a few years, sometimes a few generations, to really understand where I came from. And sometimes even to understand your why. You know, part of my why is because of my late grandfather. He grew up in Barbados without any opportunity at the time that he came along. He happened to be the son of a plantation owner and a Black woman. And it meant that he was not recognized on one side, And then his mother passed away when he was like 2 years old. And he had to figure out life on his own. But he had one dream, Mike, and that was to ensure that all 6 of his children got an education that he never had. He pulled it off. So when I'm talking about dreams, I don't just mean building massive enterprise, getting the top CEO post. That could be it for you and your family. You may be the linchpin that sets up the next 100 years of people that come from your DNA. And that is a worthy dream. And I watched my grandfather with bruised hands. Some people say, Gregory, these hands, if you could see what these hands had to go through, what you had to do. And it means for me that when corporate got tough, when entrepreneurship gets tough, I cannot stop and say it's too hard because I was not in a plantation field for 18 hours a day. I was not walking 2 hours to get to work and 2 hours back. I was not working 10 years to afford a bicycle to cut your time in half and getting a car only at the age of my retirement. I was none of those things. So every time I feel weak, like I feel like I'm not enough, I think about heroes like that who gave everything for their dream and to benefit people that they would never meet, which I think is the highest form of leadership and something that we should all aspire to.
That is true leadership. Beautifully said, because we have to be selfless as a leader almost. There's a book or a saying, leaders eat last. We make sure the team is fed, right? There's many people who are like, all right, I'm first, right? Let me in, right? That's the scarcity mindset. And most people operate in a scarcity mindset. They're operating with limiting beliefs, and all of these things are stopping you from being the true leader that you can be. And many people don't even know it's happening. As you said, it could be generations old, generations that you don't even know. They're the scars from your past that are in your mindset, that are entwined in your DNA. You don't know, but it feels like I shouldn't do this. I shouldn't put myself out there. I shouldn't public speak. Whatever it is, there is something that's saying, don't do it. Don't be great. Don't put yourself out there. Just stay alive. And most people, they just fall into that comfort zone. They just stay right there. They don't grow. They don't want fear. They don't want challenge. They want just enough. And most people are just barely surviving. Most people are just taking the scraps that are thrown at them and they're just being obedient. They're just like, okay, well, this is what I get. Like this is all I can have, versus them saying, this is not what I want. This is what I can get. How do I do that? And coaches, mentors, wonderful places to begin. A coach like yourself is going to be an asset in someone's corner because we're going to look at, or you're going to look at specifically, I do more mindset work. You're going to look at, okay, well, let's look at all aspects of who you want to be, because now we can see your true values. What do we need to build to get there? What do we need to do? What do we need to get rid of? Sometimes when you're moving from your house to a new house, throw a lot of stuff away. In our mind, it's the same way. We have a lot of trash. We have a lot of stuff that is not helping us. They're anchors. So when we want to change our position, be it leadership, be it power, whatever you want to change to, there are things that are stopping you. There are things that are holding you back. And you don't know that they're holding you back until you get a coach, until you get a mentor. And then they say, hey, listen, this is no good. This direction that you're going, yeah, you might be able to get it. It might be luck, but this right here is going to be more certain if we do it this way instead. And this is why I love coaches. This is why I love leadership. This is why I love having people like yourself come on, talk about their experience, talk about the work and how they help people, because this is what we need. We're not getting it in the school systems. We're not getting it in our family and our upbringings because a lot of people are just playing it safe.
Nelson is a perfect example of, again, leadership not always being seen. So when you have these beliefs in your mind, you've been influenced by someone who is not even around, but has been passed on for generations. And I want folks listening here to realize a couple of things. One, at the core, if you can find a way to get people to buy into an idea, that it influences an idea, leadership can last forever. The people that we still speak about today, whether it's in religion or historical figures, in many instances, they got people to buy into an idea. Whether it was positive or negative, the leadership became more than just being about them. It became some ideal, whether it's Christianity or, on the flip side of things, another powerful leader, not a good moral compass by any means. But if we look at Hitler and the Nazi movement, that was powerful leadership being displayed against an ideal. that even though Hitler may be long gone, Jesus Christ may be long gone, people are still being influenced towards these ideals and principles. And so it means that even in your own family or in your own company, you want to be really, really clear about what these ideals that we represent and we lead are. That when you're not around, that's the test of legacy. When you're not around, will people still follow and strive for that benchmark? And that's a really, really serious and significant challenge that I think everyone has to be aware of on every level.
And that's a great place to leave this episode, legacy, right? Where are you going to be in 100 years? You're going to be dead most likely, but your memory, where's that going to be? Is it going to be forgotten? Is it going to be something that's going to be standing the test of time? Maybe, right? But you have to do the work in order for that to happen. And then you also have to figure out that the sacrifices that you make today are going to have a ripple effect throughout your generations in history. They say that you could be the black sheep, right? Be the black sheep that just changes the generations to come, right? People will look back and say, well, when did our family history change, or when did our family dynamic change? And it should be traced back to you. If you're not in a good place, if your family is suffering, if you're not building anything that's going to be worth a damn in 10 years, then start to, really think, like, what legacy are you trying to do? Maybe it's just kids. Maybe it's just some wisdom, traditions. It can be that. But most people, they want something grander. As we begin to wrap up, I would love to get some final words from you and then to tell the audience where they can find you.
All right, awesome. And that's a great point. I want you listening here right now, folks, to have the mindset that the buck stops here. No matter what happened in history, this is where it changes. This is where a new standard is set. My mentor, John Maxwell, when I first heard him say everything rises and falls on leadership, I was like, oh, come on, man. Everything? What about economy? What about management? What about engineering? What about all these other elements, right? But at the core, for us as people, leadership is the bottom line. No organization can ever be any better than the human being leading it. No family can ever be any better than the person or persons leading it as parents. And it means that you have a moral obligation to become that best version of yourself, because everything is going to rise or fall based on how much you can grow. And we talk about wanting health, we talk about wanting wealth, we want great relationships, those three core things. Leadership is like the centerpiece of all of that, keeping those things in balance, keeping those things prioritized. And I want you to know that you can be the leader that keeps those elements in harmony to build great wealth for yourself and your families. Do it while not burning out, keeping in good shape, and not burning your relationships along the way. But it takes a leader to hold the reins, seize the reins, and decide, I'm going to engineer the best version of myself, who is then able to engineer the dreams and vision that I see for the ultimate version of whatever my best is.
Mm-hmm. And how can people find you? Website, social media?
Okay, sure. So if you want to connect, my website is www.gregoryskeete.com. That's GREGORYSKEETE.com. My social media handles everywhere are GS Skeete. So feel free to reach out, connect. Happy to do so.
Perfect. And I'll make it easy for everyone. All the stuff is going to be in the description box below. And if you're under 18, close your ears. I'll give you a second. All right. Leadership is doing hard shit. All right. If you want to make a new standard for yourself, you have to do hard shit. It's not going to be easy. You have to suffer, it seems like. It seems like when you want to stop, the best way I like to view leadership is just the easiest way to view leadership. Go on a treadmill, put it for whatever speed, 7, 8 miles an hour, and you start running. And when you say, oh, I can't run anymore, you don't stop. That's leadership. You keep on going, you keep on pushing. And at some point, you're going to start to train your mind. And you're going to get to that mark that you got to the day before, 8 minutes, 9 minutes, whatever it was. And you're going to find that, okay, great. 9 minutes went by, nothing happened. 10 minutes went by, 11 minutes went by. And then you start to get the runner's high. But this is a leadership high. This is a progress high. This is the train that you want to be on. Most people stop at the onset of struggle, on the onset of pain, but you have to push through that. You have to do the hard shit. And if you're not willing to do the hard shit, you're always going to have the same shit, the shitty life that you have. And most people don't want that. Most people, they want good prosperity in their life. but they're not willing to do it. And the best way I have found, as I said early on, is to get someone to push you, get a trainer, get a mentor, get a coach like Gregory. And you're going to find that you're more readily willing to do the hard shit than if you just did it by yourself. Or if you just said, I'm going to go on the treadmill and I'm going to walk until I feel like, okay, I got my heart going a little bit. All right, I'm out of breath. I feel like I'm going to throw up. Listen, unless you fall off the treadmill, you didn't do it right. All right. If you can walk out of the gym, you did it wrong. You have to suffer in a sense. I'm not saying that we hurt our body so much where the next day we can't do anything, but we go to the point where it's just like, whoa, I pushed myself. You train your brain to elevate. And leadership is just that. We train you to elevate the way you think, the way you operate. And then from there, everything else, your life, your finances, your relationships, they all elevate because you chose to elevate today.
That is it.
Just wanted to say that last little bit. Gregory, great guest. Loved you. Thanks
Thank
so
you,
much
man.
for coming on.
You're most welcome.
And as always, stay in touch, because what we need in the world is true leaders like yourself, helping other people, help build other people, helping to build leaders instead of just followers.
Yeah, man. Thank you very much for having me. And thanks for a wonderful show, as well as the work you're doing right here, right now, by facilitating conversations like these. This is leadership on full display. So well done, Mike.
All right, everyone. I'd like to thank you so much for watching that episode with my guest, Gregory Skeete. As you can see, when it comes to leadership, there's going to be many different variations. I'm not talking about how you can be a passive leader. You can be a leader that likes to micromanage. We didn't get into that conversation. That is a different episode. That is a different conversation. Because what I wanted to bring to you today was the aspect of leadership. Now, when it comes to leadership, you get to choose what type of leader you are. A leader that is going to be feared, a leader that's going to be respected, a leader that's going to be trusted. There's many different aspects to what leadership is. And as Gregory said, it all comes down to influence. Because if you have the influence to use your power for good, hopefully, and there's a positive result, let's multiply that. But if you have the power to have negative effect, and the people around you are going to get hurt, and maybe even it eventually hurts you, because it will. Negativity is going to do that. Guess what? We can begin to change, because many people are focused on the goal, just the goal, not so much the process, just the goal. I want to be rich. I want to be famous. I want to have the glory. I want to be the CEO. I want to be in charge. I want to tell people what to do. I want to fire people, whatever. They want to get to that end point, but yet they're not focused on every single step of the way. And if you ever went hiking, if you looked at the mountain peak only, and you didn't look at any of the rocks or the paths or whatever, you just kept looking up at the mountain peak, you would fall so many times, you will fall enough that you give up. Because you would say, what's the point? I'm trying to get to the top. I'm looking at the top. I'm aspiring to be to the top. I'm so hopeful. I have so much energy and so much vigor, but yet I'm having all this hardship along the way, because our focus shouldn't necessarily be on the top of the mountain peak at the moment. It should be in the steps in front of us, the path, the journey. What do we have to do? And that trek to the top is going to be difficult. It's going to be challenging. I remember one time I went hiking with my friend, and this was in college, and she was out of shape a little bit. I have gone hiking for, a long time, especially in my college days. My dog and myself, we would just go hiking every weekend. We'll hike, 5-10 miles or whatever it was. We were in shape. We were in hiking shape. So we were just hiking up this very steep hill. It was like very steep. My dog was just up, running ahead of me as she always did. And I was just there right behind her, right? My motivation might have been her, right? Now, she saw me as the leader and as the master, but she was leading the pack, right? She was in front of us, but yet we had the same goal, our step in front of us. My friend, who was out of shape, she was having a harder time with trying to get to the top, because she was more focused on, are we there yet? Are we there yet? Versus, is your breath the best breath it can be? Is your step as firm as it can be so you don't slip? because a lot of mistakes started to happen when she was trying to stop the pain, when we had to push through the pain to get to our goal, to get to the place that we wanted to. And the view was amazing. Life can be that too. Life can be that hardship, that steep hill in the beginning, and eventually you get to a plateau and you get to choose if you want to reach a new mountain peak or not. Some people, they settle for the first plateau. Some people say, I'm going to go up 2 or 3 plateaus, and they find a nice spot. Maybe they separate themselves to be maybe in the top 10% of earners or the top 10% of the world. It's very possible. But maybe you have aspirations to be the top 1%. Those are people who are always going to be challenging themselves, reaching a plateau, finding a new journey, finding a new mountain peak, challenging themselves every single day, going through the pain at every single moment. Even though they know it's going to suck, they say, I'm going to go through that suck again. Most people are like, I'm so glad that's over. This mindset is not leadership. It's not true leadership that's going to stand the test of time. It might be enough leadership to get you through your day, to get you through your life, but it's not going to last the generations. It's not going to create a legacy. Legacy is pushing yourself again and again and again, and challenging yourself over and over and over until you just ran out of time. That's going to create a stronger legacy than if you said, I did good. This is where I'm going to stay. This is what I'm going to keep. We continue to challenge ourselves. We continue to do new things. We continue to evolve. They say that the moment you stop learning and the moment you stop growing is the moment you start dying. So we have an opportunity today to rekindle life again, to give ourselves that desire and that flame to push ourselves and to make our future brighter. But not everyone is going to take that option. Not everyone is going to do the work to get there. That's going to separate the leaders from the non-leaders, from the leaders to the followers, whatever you want to consider those people who don't push themselves past every single thing that they have to do. Because comfort, it feels good. It feels nice. But leadership, prosperity, abundance, fulfillment, success, glory, that feels a lot better. And you get to decide what that means for you. If you want to stop along the way to take a look, take a view, sure, go for it. But keep on going. Keep on going, never stop. You have to make sure that you're challenging yourself at each and every moment. It's not going to feel good some days. Some days you're not going to want to do it. But this is going to strengthen your mindset. This is going to strengthen your resolve. And this is going to help you become a high performance impact leader in your life. And in the world that's around us right now, we need more of those leaders. Why not be one of them? My name is Michael Rearden. I'm a mindset coach. If you have any questions, email me coachinginsession@gmail.com. And I'll see everyone on the next episode of Coaching in Session. Until then, everyone take care.